The other day, we had the eighth hearing of the January 6th Klan riot hearing. So faux was desperate to distract the viewers from what they referred to as a circus. So expectations for this year's January 6th committee hearings may have started out low, but by the eighth and final night of the summer hearings, both media and viewers had grown accustomed to each hearing being 2+ hours of shocking revelations. Now the Thursday night hearing, which covered Donald Trump's actions the day of the Capitol Klan insurrection hearing, it did not disappoint. As Heather Digby Parton recounts, the committee painted a vivid picture of Trump spending hours reveling in the violence he had knowingly unleashed onto the Capitol while making threatening calls to Republican senators demanding the White House. Of course, as the months since have shown, he probably didn't need to use violence. Now that they're safe again, nearly all of those Republicans who were furious over the riot have come right back around to kissing Trump's ass. Now, worse, many of them are helping him plan for the next more well-organized coup. Now some, like Senator Josh Running Man Hawley of Missouri, are in this because they unsubtly long for a fascist state. Now others, like Senate Minority Leader Moscow Mitch and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy, they seem less enthused about Trump, but clearly they feel like keeping their own power means playing nice with Trump. So still has a Svengali-like hold over the GOP base. Now, but even with Trump's power over the Republican base starting to wobble, is it starting to wobble just even a little bit? The GOP is already an unpopular minority party that only has real power because of the anti-majoritarian tilt of electoral institutions. The party's ability to hold on to power, much less win or get it close enough to steal in 2024, depends all too often on razor-thin margins of victory in swing states and gerrymandered districts. If even a 1 to 2% of the reliable Republican voters got cold feet about the authoritarian tilt of the party, it could dramatically alter the GOP's future and base. That's true even if those voters didn't vote for Democrats but instead just skipped out on voting. Now, um, Now, it may seem like an impossible dream, but clearly Faux was worried about this possibility. On the last night of the hearings, while other networks piped the broadcast directly to American TVs, Faux instead embraced a distract and spin strategy meant to keep their viewers from even feeling tempted to engage with the actual evidence of Trump's crimes. The network exuded a palpable fear that some other people might actually listen, learn, and change their minds, so network producers pulled out all the stops to keep that from happening. John Whitehouse, the news director of Media Matters, took on the thankless task of tweeting side-by-side comparisons of the faux programming and the live hearing. The strategy is as predictable as it is fucking depressing. The racist piece of shit Tucker spent his primetime hour opening a firehouse of grievance programming that was geared directly at stimulating the sexual jealousies, racism, and intellectual resentments of the faux audience. Things kicked off with the "why do these stupid medical scientists think they know more about viruses than me?" Tantrum, because the racist piece of shit Tucker doesn't know shit about the viruses. Now it was followed up by the Freebird of right-wing grievance. How dearly stupid sluts have sex with men who aren't me whining. Probably because Tucker, nobody wants to fuck your inbred ass. Carlson also hit the racism hard, which he knows all about being racist anyway, because he has that white power hour show that he does. But segments about how the world outside of the faux viewer suburban lawn is a violent hellhole caused by racial diversity. Now, whatever it takes to keep the lizard brains activated, drowning out any desire to think critically or engage with real evidence. Another racist piece of shit, Sean Hannity, meanwhile, embraced a different tactic, acknowledging the hearings but trying to discredit them, even though he wasn't very good at discrediting them anyway. Trump himself got involved, having an extended meltdown on his lame Truth Social network, which you can't really call his network Truth Social because Trump doesn't know how to tell the truth. So mostly it was aimed with misogynistic vitriol that was aimed at Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and the former White House aide Sarah Matthews, who testified against him. It was a blended approach trying to discredit the hearings but within a framework of misogynist whining to endear him to his fellow women haters. Um, the content is, of course, all irrelevant noise built on a foundation of lies. It's the purpose of it that is so fascinating, to convince viewers to stay as far as possible away from absorbing the information offered by the January 6th committee. Clearly, the faux producers are worried that even a small amount of attention paid to the facts will stoke doubts in their viewers and weaken their resolve to keep supporting Trump. Should they be worried? From one perspective, the answer is a big fat fucking no. After all, as the committee demonstrated last night, on that Thursday night, Republican members of Congress were directly threatened by Trump's violence, and they were afraid for their lives and begged him to stop. But if people he clearly killed can handle the cognitive dissonance to stay by his side, certainly the inbred sycophantic voters who are at a physical remove can, and certainly the past 6 years suggest that Trump's sycophantic inbreds are plenty aware that he's a sociopathic monster, but they don't give a shit. They're motivated by the same thing that causes Republican politicians to stick by Trump. They want power no matter what cost it is to get it, and they think that Trump is the vehicle to get it. They don't believe the big lie so much as embrace it as a way to achieve the overall goal, which is for their tribe to control all the reins of power. Democracy be damned. For most Trump sycophantic inbreds, faux exists mostly as a rationalization generator more than a source of a genuine confusion, that they could, after all, change the channel, but they don't. Still, even if Trump sycophantic inbreds are immovable in their faith, as the numbers show, all you need is a couple of percentage points to change their minds, and it would dramatically undermine the GOP hold on power. There are voters like the former Metropolitan Police Officer Michael Fanone, who went against his better judgment and voted for Trump in 2016, but now having endured the violence of January 6th, he is now an outspoken critic. And the polling shows that while most Republican voters are steadfast in love with Trump, the hearings really are rattling the consciences of a small percentage. Now, however, quietly, some small number of Republicans are wondering if it's really worth it to keep on the path of fascism just to retain their political power. In light of this, it's interesting to look back at the racist piece of shit Carlson and Hannity, their different approach to convincing viewers to bury doubts and stay the course. Now, Carlson's projectile vomiting of racism, misogyny, homophobia, and general resentment towards intellectuals is a classic fascist propaganda, of course, but the context layers on another implicit argument. Trump's violence and attempts to destroy democracy may be uncomfortable, but it's necessary to achieve the right's political goals of forced childbirth, undermining science, and enforcing strict race and gender hierarchies. Now the other racist piece of shit, Hannity, on the other hand, seems more interested in trying to bamboozle his audience by muddying the waters around the facts of January 6th, or more cynically, he's just offering up a bunch of talking points for his audience to repeat, so they can justify their predetermined conclusion that they don't give a shit about January 6th. Now, Carlson, even though he's a racist piece of shit, he's not really a smart one, so I bet on his strategy more. Now, again, Republican voters have never been particularly confused about who Trump is. As the committee members argued strenuously Thursday night, Trump lacks character, but that's not news to his voters so much as a selling point. Trump revels in his villainy, and his sycophantic inbreds cheer the most loudly at his hate rallies when he's insulting or bullying people. They view his sociopathy as a weapon, so they can use it against their perceived enemies. So the best way to keep them from feeling pangs of conscience over his violent methods is to remind them of why they backed him in the first place, and they want him to oppress people that they don't like, even if it means committing violence. It remains to be seen how much the impact the January 6 hearings will have. Most Trump voters know how Trump did. They know why he did it, and they approve. The hope is that just enough of them start to feel things have gone too far. We tend to be skeptical about this because I can guarantee you that it won't change their minds. But it gives me reason to pause and not watch faux and Trump spin and to watch faux and Trump spin as hard as I can. If Trump and his main propagandists are this worried about losing support, maybe that's a sign of hope for the rest of the country. So if you like the video, you can give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King. You can also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can donate to my Patreon link, which you can find in the About section of YouTube. And for just as little as a few bucks a month, your donation can help go a long way, and thanks for listening.